Well, good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? We're going to talk about paper towels. Paper towels, interesting invention. Certain ones are more absorbent than others. Some are less absorbent. And if you take off a sheet, of course you can wipe things down and stuff like that, but it doesn't really make it that absorbent. So my process is, and you're going to love me for this, when I say I use paper towels, okay, well, I'll use quite a bit here, which I always do. Put those off to the side. And I take it like this, and I just fold it. Okay. And the reason why I do that is because it makes a great absorbable surface. Okay, I'll move that one over there. I'll use that one later. Okay. So the paper towels basically becomes, instead of having a palette, which I don't need, I'm going to go ahead and put some water on here. And that'll stay wet a long time. Now, if I'm in the sun that's say 110, 115 degrees, this will still stay nice and wet. So whatever I put on here, you can kind of see it's going to come off on that. Okay, so I'm going to put a little more on there. There we go. Clean my brush and I'm ready to go. Another reason for paper towels are, since they are so absorbent, if you're first wetting your brush, wipe it down on that, and then you can come in here. I'm pretty good on that, so I'll just come in here, and I think I'll make that one more impressionistic. Moving over here for a second. I'm using actually raw umber. It has a greenish tint to it, so it makes it kind of nice. But one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to, any color you use in a dominant factor is going to be a dominant color. So if I use a green, a lot of my paintings, I get a lot of green coming out. So you want to be careful with that. The nice thing about raw umber is it has some cool qualities and some warm qualities to it. That's the advantage to using raw umber. And one thing you want to keep in mind is when you're using this also, that it is a series 1 color, so it's really just kind of like I use it for a lot for underpainting. You'll see me use it a lot in old masters work type thing. And here you go. So you can kind of see just by that, it's kind of dominated that. Okay, I'll do this one here so you can kind of see it here. Okay, so I have to turn it, so sorry folks, I'll do it the other way. I'll come here. And that whole side of that head is coming down. I chose this color because I can go darker if I need to, and I'll probably use a purple. And it helps establish a lot of really good tonal qualities. But it doesn't hide the fact that I'm using pretty much contemporary colors for this. And as you can see also, paper towels, I love them because I don't have to establish anything more with them. Just once they're wet, you just have to re-wet your brush every now and then. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and do that. And you gotta really control where you're putting it at. So if you're working, like right now I went white, so I'm going darks. I'm going a little bit cool because since the raw umber has a greenish tint to it, it gives you that effect. Come in here and yeah, there we go. I'm gonna darken these all up. So and you can see me hold my brush like a pencil. I don't think it hurts anything. And I'm still not trying to hide any of my normal work. So, okay, give you an example. Okay, here's a picture. Here's a reference. Okay, 2 done. So a lot of times, you know, I don't always do pictures where there's a good contrast. So then you have to invent the contrast on these a little bit. Like on this one here, before I started, okay? If I look here, it's all bathed in light. So you can see where I put the green, that's gonna help things drop back. But this is actually gonna help establish, you know, kind of a light side and dark side. So I'm gonna come in here. I'll probably use my purple on some areas. Let me see here. Okay, I'm gonna come to the side of the head. I'm using a fairly large brush. I mean, I'm not using a detail brush for this because I don't think that's necessary. And on top of that, every time you use a larger brush, you're going to get a more contemporary look. You're going to get a more painterly look rather than a detailed look. You see this a lot in when people are really learning what they'll use. They'll use little tiny fine brushes, right? They'll use these little tiny fine brushes, and they'll get this. They will get this almost like hairy look to their pictures. Hold on. Yeah, see, that's not gonna work. I'll set these over here. Anyway, so it has kind of a hairy look because it just looks like painted lines. But if you break that up, once they get past the idea that they're learning, then all of a sudden it's like, well, they usually get bored. So then, of course, it's like, well, what do I do next? Well, if what you do next is, okay, I got 2 there. Put him here. Well, you thought there was an organization to my studio? Silly people. And once you get past the idea that you have to make all those little tiny things, and you're free enough to do all this other stuff, then all of a sudden, you get it's freedom, because you're no longer tied to the conception that if you don't do it, it's not going to look right. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They will work and they feel it has to look a certain way. And that changed this one pretty quick. So again, you want to be careful though not to use it too much. That's the reason why I always encourage my 3-20 rule. Basically 3 minutes to teasel, 20 minutes back. It stops you from working. Now question, how long did I work on that? Maybe 30 seconds? I'm done with that part. So there you go. So that's done. Okay, so now I'm going to move that one here. That one here. I'm going to move this one. Okay, this one here. This one here, you can kind of see. Here's the reference. All in light except one part. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to establish that dark. The shadows. I basically just using this large brush and I go over this, and that way it gives me an impression of detail. Not so much that that's exactly how it has to look. The other thing I like about this is painting this way is the fact that, you know, you can use any color you want as long as you know how color works in the spectrum of how we see things. If I tell you with a mental image that anything with red in it brings things closer, anything with blue in it drops things back, now all of a sudden you got this image in your head that anything with blue in it is going to drop things back. It's a mental image. It's like you're using your imagination. Okay, and I say, okay, now where's purple at? And you say, oh, right in the middle. Okay, so if you got red here, blue here, purple here, where's green at? Well, if green, what colors take to make green? Yellow and blue. So if you go blue, yellow, then you got green, then you got purple. Okay, how about orange? Orange would be considered warm. So then you have red, yellow, orange, purple. Okay, so here's a question. So if you take the two primaries, you make a secondary color. And red's here and blue's here. Where's yellow at? A lot of people say, well, yellow is considered a warm, so it's right up front. And I would tell you no, it fits in both places because it takes yellow to make green and yellow to make orange. So that's what you want to keep in mind. As long as you follow that rule, there isn't anything you can't do. You just have to make sure that you live and die by it. Because then if I'm using raw umber, which has that greenish tint to it, I know I can use this as a shadow color, but also I can use it as a highlighting color too. Okay, now I want you to notice that. Now I'm going to get real dominant here with this color. I'm going to get real dominant with maybe, I use Cad Yellow Deep, which has a lighter tone to it. I've already applied this to it, which is dark. You can kind of see the difference between the two. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Cad Yellow Light. Yes, Cad Yellow Light, not hues. That's another thing, everybody. Stay away from hues, okay? Hues actually are not paint, it's just fillers. So if you think you're getting Cad Red Light or Cad Yellow Light or Cad Red, Cad Deep, and it says hue, you're not getting any of them. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here, and Cad's a really a nice opaquing color too, so when you put it on, it can dominate really fast. So you want to be real careful with it, unless that is your purpose to do this. I'll show you what I mean here really quick. And notice I'm not changing my water either. Yeah, that's a big misconception. Okay. I'm going to come here to the side here and drop a little bit in there. Okay, you remember what it kind of looked like? Yeah, look how strong that color looks. So a little will go a long ways with your CADs. That's the reason why they're so expensive. Not because, well, one, they're expensive because they use cadmium, and two, they're expensive because there's such a high concentrated pigment in there and so little binder that you're not going to, it's not going to, it's just going to dry, it's going to impact your paintings with more opaquing color rather than being translucent. The idea being like quinacronomes. You're into your quinacronomes, magentas and stuff like that. Quinacronomes, phalos, those are man-made colors. So in the process of doing that, you wind up having more binder in there, so they become more translucent, more transparent. So that's actually an easy one. So I'll come on to where we at. Oh, here we go. Come here. Now I'm going to show you this one before, so you can see it after. And what I'm going to do, this one here, I want it to really look like morning time. So I'm going to come in here and drop that in here. And I'm not going to move into the high tinted white areas, because if I do that, then it will overpower everything. So when I finally do those things, when I'm moving kind of halfway between the dark colors, and if I want to do anything with that, then I can go in and so a lot of times if I use a contrasting background on this, what will happen is it'll give me a feeling of the sun hitting it, just hitting it in the morning time. Now I haven't even gotten to the teal yet. Teal's a really great color, but let me show you this. Now, ready? Ah, yeah, see? Put that one over here. Let me see here. I'll go to this one. Okay. So let me see if I can do. I'll see if I can't turn myself so you can kind of see. So you can kind of see it. Okay. There we go. Okay. So let's do this. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, everywhere I put this color, I'm going to put in areas. I'm going to go halfway, like halfway here, halfway there. That way, whatever color I put here, the color is still going to bleed into there. Okay. I'm going to come into here. Wherever it moves from your darks to your lights. And again, everywhere I'm looking, I'm not doing anything until I got my eyes exactly where I want to be. And that's how you correct yourself. How long have I been working on this thing? I'm almost done with it. And you can see how powerful this color is. I'm going to do that up there just because when I come across here, let's pull that. Okay. And there's these, how the fur goes. So I'm going to come down here and do that. There we go. And there you go. You can kind of see that it went from that other part to this. So now, let me see here. Okay, I got 2 more. I'll do 2 more and then I got to stop the video and hopefully you've enjoyed the process. Now this one here, I want you to notice that one. This one here is pretty much all in light. Okay, kind of see that? So there's a lot of dark in there, but what I can do to have some fun with this, and again, the brush I'm using is that, so it's not a small brush. Come in here. And I just want to hit those areas, like I said, the more you work with this color, what will happen is the, oh yeah, okay. Now the other color I used was just, it's a slight tone a little bit different. So I'm going to come here. And it does have to have kind of a hard surface to work. So I'm going to come here like this. So whatever I put here, this will then become a real dominant high tone color. So you can kind of see that when I'm, well, almost. Okay, there you go. So every time you do stuff, now see, I'm not even doing the background. That's the difference between me and a lot of painters. Some painters say if your background doesn't look good, it doesn't matter what you do with your subject. Okay, I'm on the impression that if my subject doesn't look good, screw the background. You're not gonna, doesn't make any difference because your subject basically tells the story. Without the subject, then you have a background, and that background better tell the story, because if it doesn't, then you got other problems, because then you didn't really do the composition and painting right. Okay, let's see here. Okay. And this is also, you notice that these all look very similar because the same one painter's painting them. There, okay. Come in here. And like I said, it doesn't take a lot of work. When you use larger brushes, typically you don't have to worry so much about, you know, the idea that the detail has to be brought in so much. I'm gonna wipe down my, peel that off here. Now another thing people talk about is when you're using cads and cobalts, you know, oh my God, you know, you're gonna get cadmium poison and stuff like that. Okay, just to be fair, I talked with the doctor about this one time, and he goes, well, how often do you paint with them? I said, well, you know, I don't do a lot of it. I mean, it's not like I paint 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. He goes, well, that's good, because if you had a constant exposure to it on that level, then yes, you're gonna have all sorts of problems. But in your case, no. So it was kind of a refreshing thing, because I lived in Santa Fe and everybody was toxic. Everybody had toxic chemical. They were chemically sensitive. It was amazing. They could even walk. I had artists that would refuse to come into the store because they couldn't be around the stuff, but then they'd have us bring out all the CADs and paints outside so they could sample out there. Basically, I think all they didn't want to do, they just wanted us to cater to them. But that's how they did it, and it was actually really good philosophy. Okay. Yeah, make sure you wipe your tubes down. I can't tell you how many tubes I've had to crack open. The longer you wait, the harder this paint gets. So, but anyway, hopefully this has been inspirational and also instructional, inspirational. Are you inspired to clean your tubes? Well, anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Yeah, welcome to my little world, and hopefully you got some good tidbits out of this. And the reason why I filmed, you know, I'll say something really quick. I've got about 10 more. I've got about 5 more minutes. I'll say this about the way I film. Okay, I saw a video. This was years ago, and the reason why I filmed this, and I don't have really great studio lights and this perfect setup that everybody wants. The reason why I don't do that is because I saw a video of Ansel Adams one time, and the guy's introducing everything, and he's in his dark room, and he's looking at these prints. He's talking about it. Well, he walks out of his dark room, and it's right in his kitchen, and he walks over. He's carrying this print. He walks over to this microwave, puts it in there. House is kind of like it's straightened up, but it's not perfect. It was like a 1950s house type stuff, you know, like anything else, a rancher. And he's in the kitchen, and he puts this in the microwave, and he goes, you know, the greatest invention I ever seen was microwaves. And the guy goes, why microwaves? He goes, it's 10 years for every 10 seconds. He goes, what? He goes, I can age my paper, age my prints 10 years for every 10 seconds. And he would hit like 30 seconds. He goes, oh, there's 10 seconds. There's 10 years. Oh, there's 20 years. 30 years. Ding! Pulls it out and says, see the difference? And the guy goes, no. And he goes, watch this. So he did it again. He did it under 10 seconds, and he could see a slight difference. You know, so those little things like that always impressed me, but it wasn't in the perfect setup. It was in his house, in his kitchen, and he walked from his dark room to his studio. His dark room to his kitchen. So that's what I wanted. When I do this, you know, that's what I want everybody to see. I don't want them necessarily see, oh, well, I've got everything perfectly set up and I got this wonderful, beautiful studio and ooh, baby, baby, ooh, baby, baby. No. I learned that disaster from looking at a bunch of these beautiful studios in Santa Fe that were in perfect condition, but they never painted there. And if they did, it was so rare, it was ridiculous. And this one painter, she was upset because she wasn't finding galleries and stuff like that. And I'm going, oh, how can you find a gallery? You don't paint. She goes, I paint all the time. I said, no, you don't. Because if you painted all the time, this studio, the floor, you would be able to walk on. Every surface on here would have paint probably, no doubt. You'd muck out once a month, every 2 months, and then you'd start again. She goes, I hope you don't paint in here very often. And she goes, what? I said, because you spend more time cleaning and impressing people with your studio than you actually do with the job of actually painting and getting the job done. And she kind of looked at me and she goes, yeah, you're right. I go, yeah. So she started working with me a little bit, and next thing I know, she was doing these incredible pastels, but she transferred it over to her oil process. I know the next time I went back in her studio, it was just this complete disaster. And well, now you're painting. I love the studio. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And it's perfect bullshit. People come into my studio, and sometimes they're lucky to find a seat, right? Sometimes you just got to stand. And if you're a student, well, guess what? I clear this part off here, and you work here, or up on my wall where I got my French cleats on, where you can just hang the canvases. That's kind of fun because then you don't need an easel. We'll talk about that one day. But that's the reason why I don't clean my studio. That's the reason why it's always like this when you see it. So mine's a working studio. It's not for show. If I was doing shows, you know, I'd be set up like Bob Ross or one of those guys where, you know, see the studio lightings and he's sitting there with this nice backdrop. It's a load of horse shit. You know, he had to paint that way. So because he didn't have a choice, because he was on a contract with that couple. Yeah, that's an interesting story. But anyway, I want everybody to have a great day. Hopefully this became inspirational. Oh crap, what did I used to say? Instructional, inspirational, I don't know, something. But anyway, hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. And everybody, you know, paint.